Disclaimer, the following video may... what the hell? Do I really need to warn you? Let's just get on with this hot mess. Let me level with you real quick, guys. I definitely wasn't expecting to release this video this soon, knowing what I had to do in it and with my IRL issues, but that aside, I guess I too can be lucky every once in a while. Also, before we dive into today's video of Nocturne, you will notice a few different things from the last video, and that's because I recorded that one on my PS3. All the footage from this video onward is gonna come from my emulator and OBS thanks to my new PC. That's why, for example, you will probably notice, if I'll ever show you, that I won't have Preta as a demon, but I'll have Will-O-Wisp instead. That's because I never managed to recruit Preta, but I did manage to recruit Will-O-Wisp. And also why Kodama will have Zun, especially since in the last video he lost it at the very end. But enough of that, let's jump into the video. Since last time, I did some off-screen item grind in anticipation to the next two major areas I needed to visit. I went back to Yoyogi Park and probably exterminated what could be half of the pixie population just to get chakra drops and revival beads. The first one restores NP and the other revives KO demons. But they can also be sold for a good chunk of money, so I know I'll be back here quite often. While doing that, Pixie got up to level 6, learned her last skill, and I triggered the evolution into High Pixie, making her a bit stronger in the process, and she will now learn more skills. Now that's awesome! I also took my time to recruit Hua Po, a fire-type demon which will grant me some fire coverage and then some. Trust me, you'll see. But now, let's get back to some story progress. I meet with Chiaki in Shibuya's underground mall club, find that Hijiri is at the terminal, and that he learned to use the Amala Network to go from place to place. He wants to send us to Ginza and, well, something with the Amala Network went wrong. Before I continue, let me just say it. The Amala Network. For this part of the game alone, it feels like the difficulty in a scale from 1 to 10 has been amped up to freaking 20. You can't recruit demons, as they're all either light or dark aligned, so the tall command won't work. You technically can recruit demons, but it's a case like Preta and Will-O-Wisp. You have to get them to their low HP, they have to beg for your forgiveness, and pray that they won't give you money or items, and just propose you to become a party member instead. It can happen, but it's not something I'm gonna bank on. Also, this place is like a freaking maze, and you probably will get lost a few times. Also, pro tip, do not try to run away from fights. Not once on hard mode I ever managed to run away from a single fight. Luckily, on the way there are a couple of healing rooms and save points, so I guess the place is not 100% bad, but I guess that's up to interpretation, right? At the end of the dungeon, you will encounter a new boss, the Spectre. This little dude right here is a pain in the butt. He starts the fight by summoning 5 copies of him, so at the very first it's unfair since he will have 6 press turns to work with. My suggestion is that you debuff it and focus on a single Spectre at a time using physical attacks, as the Spectre can resist magic damage. Also, watch out for his Augie attack. At this point, many of the demons that you can have, if you can't fuse, will be weak to fire, like Kodama, Shikigami, and maybe other demons, in case you have fused them. After a few turns, the Spectre will merge into a single bigger one, and he'll only have 2 press turns instead of 4 or 5 at this point, so I guess that's kinda cool, but he will still hit pretty hard, and almost immediately he kills my Shikigami, my debuffer, as well as Wapo. But after taking a few turns of juggling revival items with some damage, the Spectre eventually goes down. After I beat it, I run for the exit as if I'm being chased by death itself, which, technically speaking, it's not untrue. I then get to the Labyrinth of Amala, the optional dungeon of the game that I will have to complete in order to get the true demon ending. I meet Lucifer, who gives me a candelabrum, and then sends me to Ginza. It's worth noting that the footage of where I first got there got corrupted, so I'll tell you what I did instead. I recruited an angel, checked out the unique shop called Rag's Jewelry, where I can exchange gems for items and a few special demons, and then recruited a Jack Frost. This one isn't a great demon per se, but he has a skill called Dark Might, a skill that gives his normal attack a 100% critical chance during a new moon. This is very good for boss fights. And he will also give me some ice damage coverage overall, even though with the Wadatsumi Magatama I learned Ice Breath, so I can cover that myself if need be. I then notice a secret door guarded by a huge monster. We'll probably have to come back later. Also, on my way to the next destination, I level up, and the Morogoro Magatama gave me a +1 strength boost like it did on my PS3 file. Now that's very neat. I go to the base of the Assembly of Nihilo, but get immediately kicked out. What a douche. I then head to the Harumi warehouse, which leads me to the Great Underpass of Ginza, the source of many nightmares for me. After wandering in it, I find some strange people called mannequins, weak demons that look like humans, and I go to their village. I then make a beeline for the junk shop and buy the Hifumi Magatama in there. This is why I told you to save money. You will need this Magatama soon enough for his wind null affinity. Also, if you didn't leave Pixie behind, this is where you get the Ankh Magatama instead. And if you have the spare money after Hifumi, do buy this one. Next up, I meet the Collector Mannequin as well as the Gatekeeper, which won't let us go further. The Collector can convince him, but he wants a 1,000 yen bill for that. Where can we find it though? Remember the guarded door back in Ginza? Well, the guard is now gone, and you can now access Loki's treasure room, where you can get the bill, as well as a few mystical chests with rare gems in them. Also, in case I haven't told you how they work, open the mystical chest on a full moon to get the best items available in them, otherwise it can be very random. It takes some time to manipulate the moon phase, but trust me, it's gonna be worth it. As we head out of Loki's treasure room, the guard returns and we have to fight it. Now, the troll is a pretty tough boss and hits very hard. Debuff him ASAP, especially his attack, if you can. In this fight, Jack Frost is an excellent party member. He drains the troll's Mabufula spell, and he can get free criticals from Dark Might as well. However, the first attempt goes bad fast, with it using Berserk, killing off my party, except for Demi-Fiend. As I was alone and about to die though, the troll probably broke. He kept spamming Mabufula, which I nulled because I equipped the Wadatsumi Magatama. But then he punched me for a single KO. That gave me an idea for the next attempt, however. I tried again, debuffing him as much as possible while trying not to die, and this time I made sure to use Torunda and Jack Frost as best I could. Ideally, you want to have a Mo Rio, the red will-o-wisp type of demon, that since he has Polimpa, a mind skill that induces panic, which Troll is actually weak to. But I couldn't recruit him in time, so tough luck for me, I guess. The hard way it is. At one point, he kills off my party again, so I was contemplating a reset, but the same thing happened again and he kept spamming Mabufula. That gave me time to resurrect a few demons and change my lineup with Angel, a revived Jack Frost, and High Pixie. At the end, he does kill Jack Frost again, but he ran out of MP for Mabufula, funnily enough, so I rushed in and dealt the final blow. Well, that was interesting. Also, I'm happy that this fight took only 2 attempts instead of like, I don't know, 5 or 6, which I was kind of expecting. I gave the build to the collector mannequin and now I can get past the gatekeeper. On the way, the flames of the candelabrum start to flicker wildly. This is the sign that there is an upcoming fiend fight, and one of the most infamous ones at that, Matador. But before I can even think of attempting him, I know I have to get back to grind some more chakra drops again. I know I will need a lot more before I can even move on. During that time, I managed to buy the Yomante Magatama from Shibuya, which will give me all 3 status debuffs, Torunda, Rakunda, and Sukunda, making me the better option for debuffs in this run, and still be able to dish out some damage because I'm making a physical build and I won't rely on MP too much. I also need better party members. I spent a good while recruiting a Sudama and Nozuchi, 2 demons that either resist or even absorb wind damage, one of Matador's main strengths. Once I get both, I try to attempt Matador, with me having the Ifumi Magatama equipped, Dia to heal as well as debuffs, High Pixie as a main source of healing, as well as Rakunda debuffing, Nozuchi as a powerhouse that can heal off wind spams, and Shikigami as a debuffer, as well as Jack Frost as a Dark Might reserve if someone dies. I go in the tunnel, get sucked into a hole, and face Matador himself, who challenges us to a duel. So, right out of the gate, the fight starts badly. He uses his signature move, Red Capote, to maximize his hit and evasion at +4 levels and one-shot Shikigamis with a normal attack. I call upon Jack Frost and get a couple of lucky hits on it with him, but the physical attacks deal too much damage for High Pixie to cover by herself while Demi-Fiend is debuffing. Also, he used the Kunda to remove my debuffs, making it much harder for me. I call for Sudama, but High Pixie dies soon after, leaving me with very little healing. I get lucky enough to get him into his second phase after a while, but then he uses another of his main moves, Andalusia, a 3 to 4 hit physical moves, followed by Taunt, lowering my defense by 2 levels. The following turn, he absolutely destroys me. I decided to try again, this time using Sudama first instead of Shikigami, but it doesn't go much better. Before getting to phase 2, it becomes a 2v1 between Matador against me and Nozuchi, and it seemed to go well thanks to Mazan's spams, until phase 2 kicked in, where he taunted and Andalusia me to death. It was clear that I wasn't strong enough for this battle, so I went back to the grind. I checked my demons again, and I came up with a plan. I raised Huapo's level enough to learn Rakukaja and Nozuchi to get counter. I also mastered the Ankh Magatama to get Medea, a party healing spell, which will definitely prove useful. My final party was me at level 20 with Hifumi Magatama as a debuffer and main healer, Nozuchi at level 16 to pass turns and attack, the same for Sudama at level 14, and Huapo at level 11 that will debuff my defense and then pass turns, with High Pixie and Jack Frost ready as reserves. Attempt number 3 starts off well. Medea can heal my party for 45 to 50 HP, and I make sure to use Rakukaja as much as possible. Unlike debuffs, Matador has no way to remove my buffs, and I pass turns with many of my party members so that I can use 2 Rakukaja in a single turn. In 2 turns, my defense is maxed out, and I take only half damage compared to normal. Next, I start to debuff Matador while alternating between party healing and healing Demi-Fiend's MP with chakra drops. Also, the fact that he can heal debuffs is annoying as heck. It becomes a war of attrition, which I won't show you entirely, but I do get easily to phase 2, since I can pretty much top my party off with Medea, and Nozuchi can counter physical strikes for additional guaranteed damage that, yes, it goes through Red Capote's buff. But even with max defense, he uses focus, which makes the next physical move deal over double damage, and Andalusia still hurts like hell, almost killing Sudama on the first attack. He then taunts, so I know I'm on a time limit. I decide to go on full offensive but fail, and the double Andalusia cripples me hard, leaving only Nozuchi and myself once again. He taunts again and uses focused, but I notice he is in low HP animation. Since taunt also raises your attack by 2 levels while debuffing your defense by 2 levels, I decided to risk it for the biscuit, but I couldn't capitalize, and 2 turns later, after another taunt, he kills me. That was so close! The next few attempts have no audio, don't ask me why. I think the footage got slightly corrupted here too. I started attempt number 4 after a while, and by then I had a guest, my cousin, who helped me through it. The first phase goes pretty much like the third attempt, so I'll skip to phase 2 directly, where he double Andalusia me, but didn't kill anyone, although some barely survived. I get back on my feet, and it goes well for a bit since he decided to spam Mazan for a few turns, which burns both of his press turn icon, and since I null wind, and Nozuchi drains it. Until he used taunt Andalusia, which critted Nozuchi, and he Andalusia me again, and I'm the only one left standing. Since he's not on a low HP animation, there's no way I could win. I tried to fight back, but eventually died. I was starting to lose hope, but then attempt number 5 proved to be the one where I hit the jackpot. But this time, I was actually more prepared. See, off screen I actually did another attempt with my cousin. He noticed a quirk in Matador's AI, and disclaimer, I am not 100% sure whether or not this always works, but I think I actually got lucky with this one. Now, listen to this. Matador never used the Kunda if and only if I stacked 3 levels of debuffs on him. I don't know why, but as long as I don't give him 4 different debuffs, he wouldn't use the Kunda to remove them. Weird as it was, I decided to bank on it, so I used Sukunda on him twice, as well as 1 Rakunda to lower his defense, while also using Tarukaja on me with Shikigami, swapping out Huapo. After 2 Tarukaja, I brought back Huapo, and I noticed that swapping demons out of your party removes the buffs that they have on him, so I started to restacking her defenses again. This all happened in phase 1, by the way. I also tried to get Jack Frost in for some crits, failed, and a random normal attack from Nozuchi brought Matador into phase 2 sooner than I anticipated, so I was preparing for the worst. Nozuchi started to counter a lot now, keep this in mind. After a taunt plus Andalusia, I heal and go full offensive since the next attack from Nozuchi brought Matador to his low HP animation. I charge in and get this. The next turn he uses 2 taunts, bringing my defense to a level 2 debuff from a +4 buff. Nozuchi hits it with an attack. Matador follow up the next turn by a very strong Focus plus Andalusia combo, leaving only Nozuchi and me alive, and Nozuchi counters and kills it. You have no idea how close that was, and just how much this guy made me suffer inside, between all the deaths as well as the grinding. But at least we pulled it off, and with mostly weak demons to boot. After the fight, we get a new candelabrum. We hear Lucifer talking, asking us to bring the other candelabrums to him, and now we're free to continue to our next stop. And that's it for this video. This was a pain to get through, but overall I was expecting much, much worse. Nozuchi was a true hero, and I'm glad I put up a good fight with the very few tools at my disposal. Well then, join me next time as we enter a new area and maybe meet a certain someone. Who knows? This has been Bahama Raven, and I will see you very soon.